Prince Harry sharing painful and deeply personal details of the family rift that rocked the British royal family.
Prince Harry returned to London's High Court on Wednesday, delivering emotional testimony in his privacy lawsuit against the publisher of the Daily Mail.
A London courtroom. February morning. Judge Margaret Thornberry's voice, calm, clinical, reads 11 words aloud. Prince Harry's hands curl into fists. His knuckles turn white.
Prince Harry and other famous faces will be at London's High Court tomorrow.
Those 11 words weren't shouted. They weren't dramatic. But in that silent room, they dismantled everything Harry believed about his marriage, his grief, and the woman he trusted most. What was written in those private messages? Why did Harry's jaw crack the moment he heard them? And what had been happening behind closed doors for years, completely hidden from him? The answers are darker than anyone expected. Stay with us because what this judge revealed changes everything. The 11 words that broke a prince. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, has faced a lot in public. Paparazzi, controversies, a very complicated family.
Prince Harry's relationship with the media went bad and has got progressively worse.
But nothing, not one royal scandal, not one bad headline had ever brought him to tears in a courtroom. Until February 2024. Harry was there for a privacy lawsuit.
Well, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have filed an invasion of privacy lawsuit
against the Daily Mail's publisher, Associated Newspapers. The case had been dragging on for months. Papers, arguments, legal technicalities, standard courtroom routine. Nobody in that room expected the day to go the way it did. Then Judge Thornberry reached a specific piece of evidence. Private text messages submitted by the defense that had been sent between Meghan and a close friend from her California days. Someone she had trusted completely. Someone who had quietly handed those messages over to the other side. No warning, no heads up, just gone. The judge read one line aloud. Make him tear up when discussing Diana. The room went completely still.
Prince Harry began his testimony by invoking his mother, Princess Diana.
Not the usual quiet of a legal proceeding. Something heavier, on the kind of silence where people stop breathing without realizing it. Harry's mother, Princess Diana, died in a Paris tunnel in 1997. Harry was 12 years old. He has spent decades in therapy trying to process that night. He has spoken publicly about the nightmares, about the guilt.
You didn't believe she was dead?
For a long time. I just refused to accept that she was gone.
About how camera flashes still take him back to that moment. A dark road, a tunnel, and a life that changed in seconds. That grief was never a talking point for him. It was the wound underneath everything else. And now, in that courtroom, surrounded by lawyers and journalists and strangers, he was hearing that his grief, the rawest, most private part of his entire life, had apparently been noted down as a technique, a direction, a line in someone else's plan for how a moment should land on camera. His hands curled into fists, his knuckles turned white. His head dropped slowly, not in anger, but in the specific way a person moves when something heavy and invisible just landed on their shoulders. And then came a sound that stopped even the sketch artists mid-stroke. A sob, guttural, unpolished. The kind that doesn't come from embarrassment or frustration. It comes from the moment a person realizes something they believed with their whole chest was never what they thought it was. The courtroom held its breath. His lawyer stood immediately. Your Honor, I request a recess. My client is in severe emotional distress. Judge Thornberry denied it. The presentation had to continue uninterrupted. It did. For 4 more hours, Harry sat through every minute of it, hands trembling, eyes swollen, jaw locked. A man who had once stood on palace balconies waving at thousands of people now sitting in a wooden witness box.
The Duke of Sussex is one of a number of high-profile figures behind this legal action.
Trying to stay upright while the story of his own life was being read back to him by a stranger in a wig. Nobody in that room, not the journalists, not the legal teams, not even the judge, could look away. The messages behind the interviews. Most people remember the Oprah interview. March 2021, Harry and Meghan are sitting in a sunlit garden in California, opening up about racism, about being ignored, about feeling trapped inside the royal institution.
Speaking to Oprah, the Duchess of Sussex described a world that left her isolated and feeling trapped.
Harry, especially, looked raw, unfiltered. When he talked about feeling trapped, about his brother not taking his calls, about his grandmother being amazing, it felt personal, real. The kind of conversation that makes you feel like you're sitting across from someone. I'm not watching them perform. Millions of people believed every word. The courtroom evidence told a different story. Text messages submitted as evidence showed Meghan going over Harry's language from that interview, the way a director reviews an actor's performance after a shoot. Not casually, carefully. One message read, "Good." That line about being trapped in the system landed well. But next time, pause longer before, "I couldn't even call my grandmother. It needs space to breathe." Read that again. It needs space to breathe. Not because the emotion was real and needed room, but because the pause would land better on screen. There were full drafts. Entire paragraphs that showed up almost word for word in their public interviews were found in these private messages with annotations attached. Our notes written in the margins are like stage directions. Insert breath here for emotional catch. And glance down and rub fingers when saying, "My brother stopped taking my calls." These were not notes from a publicist or a media coach. Those, at least, would have made a certain kind of sense in the world of public relations. These were private messages between Meghan and a trusted friend.
He did not share the identity with me, but he wanted to make sure that I knew, and if I had an opportunity to share it.
That distinction matters enormously because it meant there was no professional wall to hide behind. No, that's just how celebrities prepare for interviews. This was personal, deliberate, and it had stayed hidden until a courtroom pulled it into the light. For Harry, sitting in that witness box, this was not about optics or reputation. This was about memory. He had told those stories dozens of times in interviews, in his memoir, in therapy. Each time, he had felt them, the tightness in his chest when he talked about his brother going silent, the heaviness when he mentioned not being able to reach his grandmother. He had carried those moments as his own. Now, each one was being traced back to a draft, a note, a direction. Mental health experts who analyzed the footage later described what Harry was experiencing as reality dissolution, the specific psychological shock of discovering that the moments you believed were the most honest parts of your life were actually performances you had been guided into giving. It doesn't just shake your confidence, it makes you question every memory you have. At one point during the proceedings, Harry rubbed his face so hard that it left visible red marks across his cheeks. His lawyer leaned over, whispering something low and urgent. Harry did not respond, did not nod, did not look up. He just sat there, eyes fixed on a single spot on the edge of the witness box, breathing shallow. A man trying very hard to stay present in a room that was dismantling him piece by piece. The plan written in plain text. After a 30-minute recess, the court resumed. Harry came back physically present, eyes red, jacket hanging off him as if it belonged to someone else. He sat down without looking at anyone. No eye contact with his legal team, no glance toward the gallery. Just a man returning to a room that had already taken a great deal from him, knowing it wasn't finished yet. the defense moved into what they called Phase 3, the monetization of royal pain. The tone of the messages shifted completely here. No emotion, no vulnerability. Yet what the court heard next read like internal memos from a company meeting. Clinical, structured, goal-oriented. Messages between 2022 and 2024 were read out loud one by one. Their Netflix contract was described in one text as,
Prince Harry and Meghan have signed a multi-year deal with streaming service Netflix to promote hope and inspiration.
Our pension vehicle. Another message laid out a plan to stretch the royal trauma arc across at least 3 projects to ensure long-term cash flow. There was a term used across multiple messages, trauma fatigue pacing, a deliberate strategy for spacing out personal disclosures so that public interest wouldn't peak too early and burn out. Grief, in other words, had a release schedule. One message discussed merchandise tied directly to their children, a toy line, a motivational picture book connected to their daughter Lilibet's name, a brand concept referred to as Archie Bears. On their son's name, the name of a child attached to a product line in a private business discussion. Another note, labeled Crisis Capital, outlined how negative press coverage could be converted into higher audience engagement by framing criticism as racial targeting or colonial backlash. Not as a response to attacks, as a planned pivot. A tool kept ready for when it was needed. One line in the evidence had been highlighted in bold. We don't run from scandals. We alchemize them. Harry sat through all of it without reacting. No tears this time, no trembling hands. He had gone somewhere else entirely, somewhere behind his own eyes, where none of this could reach him in the way it had before. The courtroom had already broken him open once. Now it was just filling in the details. See, then came the message that stopped the room cold. It was written by Meghan to her friend about Harry. He still wants their approval. It's pathetic, but I can use it. The guilt over his mother makes him easy to redirect. That's the engine. Someone in the back row whispered, "Jesus Christ," before catching themselves. No one turned to look. Everyone already understood. Harry closed his eyes. A long pause. When he opened them again, something had shifted, not dramatically, not visibly to everyone, but reporters who had been watching him closely for hours noticed it immediately. One wrote afterward that it was the look of a man who had just stopped believing something he had based his entire life on. Not anger, not shocked, just the quiet, terrible stillness of a person who has run out of reasons to doubt what is right in front of them. Now the palace goes quiet. While all of this unfolded in a London courtroom, the royal family maintained near complete silence.
I thought my family would help, but every single ask, request, warning, whatever it is, just got met with total silence.
That silence, those close to the palace said, was itself a decision. A deliberate one, because the easiest thing in the world, after years of public attacks and carefully worded accusations, would have been to say something. They chose not to. King Charles released a brief statement through Clarence House. This is a difficult time for all families. Some matters are best resolved privately and with compassion. 11 words chosen with the same care that lawyers choose words. Saying everything and nothing at the same time. Sources described him as calm, but visibly drained. According to one senior aide, his first reaction after reading the full transcripts was delivered quietly, almost to himself. This is not vengeance. This is gravity. He issued one instruction to his entire household staff, aides, and anyone connected to the palace. No gloating, no leaks, no statements designed to wound. This is not a victory, he reportedly said. It's a collapse, and a father, even one who wears a crown, does not celebrate watching his son collapse. What affected Charles most deeply, those close to him said, had nothing to do with the monarchy's reputation or public standing. It was something far more personal. His son, the boy he had watched grow up, carrying the weight of Diana's death, had been described in those messages as a project, a tool. A man whose unresolved grief over his mother had been noted down as something that made him easy to redirect. That, according to people who know Charles well, it was the part he could not move past easily. Prince William's reaction came from a different place entirely. Those close to him described him as furious not at Meghan, but at Harry. He let her do this. He handed us over. The anger was not cold or calculated. It was the kind that comes from years of watching something happen and being completely unable to stop it. When William read the specific message describing Catherine as an uncrackable mask, he went completely silent. No immediate reaction. Then, after a long pause, he said quietly, "She was trying to break her." Catherine said nothing publicly and had said nothing for years. Friends noted she had grown uncomfortable watching Harry's interviews long before the courtroom, recognizing phrases he once used to say differently, to now repackaged with new emotional weight and different conclusions. She had never raised it, because anything she said would have been read as an attack on a grieving man. So she stayed quiet and waited. Former palace aides confirmed William had sensed the change in Harry as far back as 2020. He told one aide, "My brother speaks differently now. He uses words that don't sound like him. It's like someone wrote a script, and he's reading it back. What happens to Harry now?" Within 48 hours of the courtroom session, public opinion shifted in a way that surprised even political analysts. In the UK, Harry's sympathy ratings dropped to their lowest point since he left royal life.
Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle have stepped back from the royal life, from their royal duty.
Meghan's approval numbers fell further, some polls placing her favorability in single digits. But in the United States, the reaction was more complicated. The morning shows that had championed the couple's courage now featured panels of psychologists analyzing patterns of manipulation. Editorials in major papers wrote not about Harry as a traitor to the monarchy, but about Harry as someone who had been betrayed. Corporate sponsors entered what one insider described as indefinite review. A streaming executive, speaking anonymously, said, "We bought a memoir, not a manipulation manual." On social media, therapists dissected the messages. TikTok was flooded with breakdowns of gaslighting techniques. The hashtag Harry deserves better trended alongside hashtag Meghan exposed. For Harry himself, 3 paths sat in front of him. Stay. Try to rebuild. Try to forgive. Try to find something real inside what remains. Leave divorce, disengage, and fight for his children across the Atlantic. Or return to the UK, not as a working royal, but as a son who got lost and found his way back. King Charles reportedly communicated through intermediaries that Harry would be welcomed home privately. No cameras, no statements, just family. The institution has rules, Charles reportedly said, but a father has none. William remains silent on that front. His wound is sharper, more personal. Brothers don't follow protocol when they've been hurt like this. They just go quiet and wait. And Harry the boy, who stood outside a hospital in 1997 and refused to believe his mother was gone, who spent decades trying to find a life that felt honest, is now sitting somewhere in California, trying to figure out which version of the last 5 years was real. That's not a political question. That's a human one. Here, Prince Harry walked away from everything he knew because he believed he was walking towards something true. What a London courtroom revealed in February 2024 is that the truth of his grief, his family, his voice, even his love, may have been shaped by hands he never saw. Whether he stays, leaves, or finds his way back to the family that raised him, one thing is certain: the story is not over. There are still messages to be read, still questions without answers, still a man trying to figure out who he is when the script runs out. If this video made you think or feel, drop a comment below. We read every single one, because the next chapter is already being written.